I'd like to introduce our next speaker, who's going to be talking about understanding socialism and liberalism. Pastor Brad Winship is a native of Harrington Park, New Jersey. He graduated in 1984 with a BA and MA in Biblical Studies, and in 1989 with an MBA in Business Management. And while church planting in New Jersey in the 1980s, he attended the Harbor, frequently under the ministry of Pastor Larry Bunt. After pastoring in Maryland for 9 years, he returned to Harbor Bible Fellowship in 1999 to become the full-time pastor. Pastor Brad, his wife Renee, and their 4 sons live in Lawrence Harbor. Pastor Winship has been a minister of the gospel for over 25 years. He has hosted a program on WMCA called God and Country Radio, which endeavored to teach the Christian community biblical truths concerning social, economic, and political issues. At the God and Country Conference, that's this, Pastor Winship will be discussing the core philosophical differences between liberalism and conservatism, along with how to move a society toward conservative values. In a day and age when it is politically correct to call what is good evil and what is evil good, this will be a presentation that is sure to help reconcile these perspectives with biblical worldview. Please give Pastor Brad Winship a round of applause.
And if we could have Frank come up and set me up here. Is Frank here? Okay.
Now, do you see yours there?
You live by technology, you die by technology.
Sure.
I don't even like these mouse pads. They don't have to slide along. Oh, nice. Give Frank a hand here. Technical, bring that up for me. Bring up view show. Thank you. Really appreciate this opportunity to speak to you this afternoon or this morning. We're not supposed to really talk about politics and religion, but yet here we are. And I want to begin today by reminding you that knowledge is power. The biblical prophets knew this, and Isaiah wrote that my people go into exile for their lack of knowledge. Their honorable men are famished, and their multitude is parched with thirst. So there are those who poo-poo the think tanks, the ideologues, those who work with ideas. But consider for a minute the great military blunders of history. Japan bombed Pearl Harbor, and they were sure that that attack would destroy America's resolve to do anything in the Pacific. That was an incredible error of judgment. And there was only one Japanese admiral who actually warned, you know, I fear we've just awoken the sleeping giant. Remember Napoleon, he marches into Moscow with 600,000 troops, and he limps out of there with 40,000. Because the Russians were smart. They knew that if they could avoid Napoleon's army, direct contact with Napoleon's army, the Russian winters would do away with them. All these blunders take place because of a lack of knowledge. Proverbs chapter 28, verse 18. Prepare plans by consultation and make war by wise guidance. Jesus said, I send you out in the midst, as sheep in the midst of wolves. You need to be wise as serpents and as harmless as doves. When was the last time you saw a sheep take out a wolf? Rarely, but there are breeds of sheep that are smart, and they know how to herd together and to keep close to the shepherd. It's not a waste of your time to be here this morning. Knowledge is power. There's a group of mighty men in ancient Israel called the sons of Ishkar. They were not mighty because they were rich or strong, but in 1 Chronicles 12 we read the sons of Ishkar, men who understood the times with knowledge with what Israel should do. You need to be a people who understand the times and know what to do. You cannot make any arguments, you cannot change anyone's mind without knowledge. Don't underestimate wise counsel. Now, this morning I'd like to give you a quick summation of the philosophical differences between liberalism and conservatism. Then with that understanding, talk about how liberalism can be defeated. Once you know the essence of liberalism, you can prescribe the proper antidote. There are really only two foundations upon which all ideas are built: God or man. And this can be expressed in different ways. The difference being, on the left you have humanism, on the right you have theism. Whereas on the left, man is the measure of all things. On the right, God is the measure of all things. On the left, morality is relative. On the right, you have absolutes. On the left, law is a function of human choice. On the right, law is a function of God's character and His law. On the left, you have rationalism. On the right, you have God's revelation. On the left, you have the French Revolution, the Temple of Reason. On the right, you have the American Revolution, that we are endowed with by our Creator with certain inalienable rights. On the left, the Constitution is a living document. The government of America can evolve and progress from rural to social. On the right, the Constitution is fixed. It has eternal principles. And given man's propensity to sin, the right system is always limited government. That never changes. On the left, man is basically good. On the right, man is basically evil. Therefore, on the left, you trust large government. But on the right, power corrupts. And you've got to watch. Now, the titles we have today are modern liberalism on the left, man is free from God; conservatism on the right, man must keep God's law. Two parties have formed in this world because there are always believers and unbelievers. You say, well, aren't these people on the left religious? It's God with a little g. It's not the God of Scripture, it's a God of one's own mind. And these two platforms, these two foundations are really nothing new. Humanism and theism have been in conflict since the beginning of time. In ancient Israel, it was a conflict between Baal worship and Jehovah worship. In Greece, it was the conflict between the liberal Epicureans and the conservative Stoics. In the days of Christ, it was the conflict between the liberal Sadducees and the conservative Pharisees. And in our day, it's the Democrats and Republicans. But it's always the same in every age. And the party difference is simply not a difference between teams, as some people think, as this is the difference between the Yankees and the Red Sox, or that it's just a difference in emphasis. What you have is two completely different worldviews. You need to understand that. It's a completely different view about God and man and even our destiny. A 2011 Gallup poll reported that twice as many Republicans as Democrats attend church. It's no coincidence that in 2012, the Republican platform had 14 references to God, and the Democratic platform removed all references to God, and you saw when they tried to put a reference to God back into their platform, there was booing. You said, well, wait a minute. Aren't there many freedom-loving, limited government conservatives who are not religious? As in the case of our founding fathers, well, there's your two platforms, but moving on. Such as Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, Thomas Paine, founding fathers who would not be considered evangelical Christians. Well, these were secular men coming off of 1,000 years of European big government. And they were taught through the School of Hard Knocks the need for limited government. Freedom from government was all the rage among the intellectuals in the 18th century. I wonder if these founding fathers, if they lived in a different age, would be as wise. But I want us to understand, as Frank was mentioning, that they were greatly influenced by the Christian worldview. At least they believed in God, at least they believed in divine absolutes, even though their definition of God was somewhat watered down. See, a belief in God is just so powerful that just a little theism goes a long way to changing a man's worldview. Now, our Republican candidate is Mormon, and I'm a little concerned about that because I personally believe that Mormonism has some strange works. But he's a theist, and he believes in the law of nature and nature's God. And that goes a long way. Now, we also find on the foundation of theism many secular business leaders. The great conservative Ayn Rand, author of Atlas Shrugged, was anything but a Christian. Rick Santelli, the man who started the Tea Party, was not known to be a religious man. He just started ranting on the floor of the Chicago Exchange against current economic policy. Think about Andrew Breitbart, or Dennis Miller, or Rush Limbaugh. They're not known to be religious people. These men, and business leaders in particular, gravitate over to the theistic platform because their success and their livelihood is tied to fixed economic rules. Like the law of gravity, there are economic, political, moral rules that must be followed. And there are plenty of people who know the law of God, but they don't know the God of the law. So what you have is business leaders, libertarians, individualists, anti-authoritarians, gravitating to right because of their understanding of economic law and their understanding of the abuse and the waste of big government. And we have all these people in the Tea Party. That's why you find in the business department of most universities, those people have to work with reality. They tend to be on the right, while the sociology department, that gets funded by the government, is on the left. They don't work with reality as much. Now, not being firmly fixed on the principles of theism, the problem is that sometimes this group kind of gravitates, kind of floats over to the left on moral issues and even economic issues. That's why there's a Tea Party, because too many of these Republicans have become Democrat-light. Now, the people on the other foundation have philosophically rejected moral absolutes. Do whatever you feel like doing. And if they believe in any moral absolutes, they're certainly inverted, where personal freedom comes before the life of a child. It's not just complete rejection, but what Satan does is he inverts. You'll find over here the feminists. On the left, in opposition to biblical family values, you'll find the LGBT crowd in their rebellion against gender distinctions. Academia is found on the left, and that can be kind of disconcerting, isn't it? Because if conservatism is right, you would think all educators would embrace it. Well, it's not about IQ, but 50 years ago, because of hubris, the intellectual community chose to believe that mankind must make all judgments based upon human reason. Well, for financial reasons, on the left, you will find government employees, government dependents, those who depend upon government. Because those who depend upon government know who butters the bread. The government robs from Peter to pay Paul, the government can always depend upon Paul's vote. And of course, off of these two foundations comes two different views of government. Humanism, government is the one thing we all belong to. In Theism, government is a necessary evil. Humanism, government is the main institution. In Theism, God has established many institutions with fixed responsibility. But the natural consequence of humanism is a subconscious need for big government. Right. It happens on the subconscious level, where if you don't have God, you've got to get your security somewhere. You have to get your hope from someone. And you have to have a purpose for life. And your hope and your security and your purpose now is found in the institution of the state. And it happens, again, as I say, on a subconscious level. Now, before I want to talk about how to defeat liberalism, I want to briefly discuss the wrong analysis of this current debate. Because part of the deception on the left is to rewrite and redefine the foundations, to make secondary issues primary. And I'll tell you, there's a lot of people who have misconception of these core issues. See, the claim on the left is that the difference between the two parties is not about humanism and theism, but simply about competing interests between the rights of the individual versus the rights of the society, or the needs of the individual versus the needs of the society. One party just emphasizes the individual, the other party just simply emphasizes the society. It's just a debate on how to divide up responsibilities. Liberals are concerned with the whole society. Conservatives are concerned with the rights of the individual. Well, of course, that's kind of selfish, isn't it? And this is the way the debate is being characterized. This brings up the whole issue of social justice, where the liberals say, I'm my brother's keeper. Conservatives saying, you're all on your own. Thomas Sowell, in an editorial last month, had a great opening statement. He said, the thing that most seemed to rouse the enthusiasm of delegates to the Democratic National Convention in Charlotte was that we were all responsible for one another, and that the Republicans don't want to help the poor, the sick, and the helpless. That analysis is very popular with the left, but it's just simply not true. You cannot divide the parties up this way, because the liberals are very interested in individual rights when it comes to homosexuality and abortion. And conservatives are very interested in social responsibility when it comes to strong business climate, strong military, closing down public vices that hurt us all. The real debate is not between the needs of society or the needs of the individual. The real debate is, where do you get the laws for society and for the individual? The answer for those who bring this up is to say, well, you're just arguing in the wrong ballpark completely. Conservatives care about social justice. The real issue is who defines justice, God or man. Now, what about this? Why is there this illusion that Democrats are more compassionate than Republicans. You sense that illusion out there? It's everywhere. I thought about this a long time. I think what it is the permissive parent syndrome. All the kids love the parent who lets them eat all the ice cream they want, stay up as late as they want, gives them an allowance without any chores. But when trouble comes to the family, who do they turn to? To the responsible parents. The Republican Party, conservatives, they're a responsible parents. Do you think New Jersey would have ever elected a Republican governor, Chris Christie, if we weren't in financial trouble? Absolutely not. We're never going to be able to get rid of that illusion. That lawlessness appears to be more compassionate. That has been since the beginning of time. Because man, in his sinful nature, always wants a free lunch and always wants freedom from consequences. The only way you can defeat it is just continually explain the truth to voters. That's why the Republicans are afraid that the citizenship will not find out what they're doing, and Democrats are always afraid that the citizenship will find out what they're doing. So we see that the real motives are often hidden, not apparent to many people. And if you have no scruples, you will use these kind of deceptions and deceptive slogans to score political points. Now we come to the part that left for the end. Given what we know, how do we defeat liberalism? Is the foundation on the left real? Is that the way the world really works? Only if there's no God. But if there's a God, then everything on the left is fake. What the left is trying to do is make up a universe where white is black and black is white. As the prophet said, they call evil good and good evil. And it's trying to defy the laws of gravity. You can try, but you're going to get hurt. The left is out there trying to make up an alternative reality, a parallel universe. Just like to give you an idea, a negative of reality. And if it's helpful, you might want to think about it this way. On the left, you have the Twilight Zone, and on the right, you have real America. Now, don't discount this as if this is obvious. I have come to understand this more with talking with people and reading, and even with Mike over here, a recent graduate of Rutgers University. What he saw on campus, and what I've seen with my son being there, is an explosion of the culmination of this philosophy of relativism. Morality can be whatever you want it to be. You can make up your own reality, you can make up your own rules. Now, traditional morality teaches that you have to work hard to have wealth. You don't have to believe that. You can create wealth with your own mind and your own will. That's what the left is saying. You don't really even have to figure out how the world works. You can make it work whatever way you want it to work. And that explains why the federal government has not passed a budget for the last 3 years. It doesn't matter. Budgets don't matter. That's why the federal government and leaders will borrow $400 billion a month, thinking that that's going to save the economy. That's why GM can lose $49,000 on every vote sold, but it doesn't matter because we want to believe we are being environmentally conscious. The former Speaker of the House can say President Obama created more jobs in his first year than President Bush did in his entire 8 years. It's a lie, but that's the reality they want to live in. Senate Majority Leader can say Romney paid no taxes. It's a lie, but that's the reality they live in. They said that the new health care law would save every family immediately $2,500 a year. It's wishful thinking. But that's the mindset. Reality can be whatever you want it to be, and you can say whatever you want because as long as you have good intentions. You can change reality with whatever you want as long as you can make good things happen. And evil men will always distort reality to conform to their sinful desires for either power, money, sex. It's a fantasy world. It's what the Bible calls throughout, from Genesis to Revelation, it's the lie. It's not just the act of lying, but it's the one big lie. Now, you know this is really true historically. You know, Hitler, when he joined the German Workers' Party, he was the 55th member. But, you know, they gave him the number 555 because they would add 500 to every member's number so that they would give the appearance that they had more power than they had. Back in the 1970s, the National Association for Repealing Abortion Laws lied to the media and just fabricated a poll that 60% of Americans are for abortion. And the media at that time just accepted it because they thought nobody would, you know, come out and say there's a poll. And they fabricated a number that 10,000 women a month, a year, were dying from backroom abortions. Totally fabricated. And they boast today about having done it. And you know that both landmark abortion cases were built on a lie. Roe versus Wade and Norma McCorvey, the Roe and Roe versus Wade, claimed that she was pregnant because she was raped, but she wasn't. But now, let me just move on here. What we have to do is expose the lie. To bring to light the deeds of darkness. Would Barack Obama be president today if Dinesh D'Souza came out with the movie 2016 during the election in 2008? Breitbart finally has the movie Occupy Unmasked. But it's taken a year. It takes time, and the left knows that they have to work quickly. It's often said that a lie travels around the world while truth is still trying to put on its boots. Isaiah said here that people in his day, they have said this: we have made falsehood our refuge, and we have concealed ourselves with deception. But then it goes on, what will happen? The Lord says that covenant with death is going to be canceled. And your pact with the grave will not stand. When the overwhelming scourge passes through, then you'll become a trampling place. If we did nothing as conservatives, we would win. Liberalism would run its course, collapse itself, impoverish and enslave many people, but it would eventually collapse. It always collapses because it's not based upon reality. But we care. And so we want to mitigate the damage. We want to get out there and educate others. Run for office ourselves. But our communication strategy to defeat liberalism needs to be based on the fact that it's a lie. We need to think and we need to talk like winners. Even though the left suppresses this truth of God, they know in their heart of hearts it's a lie, and they actually have ears. And they know that they're fighting the Almighty. Proverbs chapter 28 says, you know, the wicked flees when no man is pursuing, but the righteous are as bold as a lion. And the Bible itself, you know how the Bible demoralizes the enemy of the Lord? By declaring the error and declaring the ultimate defeat. Amen. It's not if they fail, it's when they fail, what will they do in the end thereof? Too often conservatives just talk as if they've got a better plan. No, we've got the only plan. Fear not, liberalism will fail. Conservatism will rise out of the ashes. Conservatives will save souls along the way. Even in the last speaker, we've got to remember the Antichrist is coming. Guess how long he gets to rule? 7 years. It's quick and it's over with. Jesus concluded his Sermon on the Mount, and this is where I'm going to conclude. Jesus said this, "Everyone who hears these words of mine and does not act on them will be like a foolish man who built his house on the sand. And the rain fell, and the floods came, and the wind blew and slammed against the house, and it fell, and great was its fall." When Jesus had finished these words, the crowds were amazed at his teaching, for he was teaching them as one having authority, not as their scribes. When we truly believe in the absolute guarantees of the fulfillment of biblical principles, we will speak with authority, and the crowd will be amazed. I invite you to come by the table that I've got up front, God and Country. I've got enough so everybody can take at least 2 of these Christian versus socialism brochures. Explains the biblical view of the 2 positions. And when I saw that there are many clergy marching with the Occupy movement, it pushed a few of my hot buttons, and I have Christianity versus Occupy and a biblical explanation for that. I've also got on our website 58 different programs explaining different biblical perspective of various issues, from legalized to marijuana to government school to entitlement programs. I also have some free sample CDs. You can actually download these, but use these for your car. That's it. Thank you very much.